for from. In cases where the idea of where it comes from or the movement isn't very strong. And I know that sounds really subtle and weird, but it's more like when it comes to do with you've taken it away, you've deprived it of something. It's hard to explain. It's basically where it's telling us where it came from, but it's not making a massive deal of the action of it going across. And I know that sounds really weird, but I'd just like you to be familiar with some of these examples, if only so that you understand them reading them, so that you don't get them the wrong way round. Okay? So to drink from the bottle, boire à la bouteille. Okay? It's like you drink to the bottle, okay, rather than from the bottle. Okay? He took it from the kitchen. Il a pris dans la cuisine. It's like he took it in the kitchen. That's where he took it. Yeah, the action of him taking it took place in the kitchen rather than il a pris de la cuisine. Okay. I suppose if I was saying he took it from the kitchen to the living room, il a pris du salon de la cuisine au salon, I'd say de there, but otherwise that. Okay. To start from zero, repartir à zéro, very common in French. Not, du from zero, like from the zero. Du. To hide something from someone, you're not taking it away from that person. Yeah, you're cacher quelque chose à quelqu'un. Okay. So I hid his presence. Je lui ai caché ses cadeaux. Okay. Prendre quelque chose à quelqu'un, again, rather than from him. This is a very common one. Emprunter de l'argent à whoever you're borrowing it from. Okay. So I borrowed money when I was in the bank. J'ai emprunté de l'argent à la banque, rather than j'ai emprunté de l'argent de la banque. Okay, that is another very common one. So basically, for those ones, for the moment, I would rather you just at least understand them, were you to hear them or write them, that you wouldn't think the sense was going the wrong way round, so that you wouldn't think it was I was lending money to the bank or anything crazy like that. Okay. Lovely. Now let's carry on. Last little section. So, what are we doing? So, the following verbs are a list of verbs which require the preposition de. So, all of these, I'm going to put all of this underneath again. I would like you to get into your mouth. Just get them into your mouth, okay? Now, can I make the point with all of these that if you don't then carry on and say something after it, you don't need de. So, for example, décider de, if you're carrying on with another verb. So, j'ai décidé de parler, I've decided to speak. If you said, yes, I've decided, obviously there's no de. De needs something after it, okay? So, s'arrêter, to stop, okay? So, to stop somebody doing something, okay? J'ai décidé de. So, j'ai décidé de fumer, I've stopped smoking. I've decided to smoke. Décider, to decide. Se dépêcher, yeah? He hurriedly did this, he hurried to finish the work, yeah? Il s'est dépêché de finir le travail. Empêcher, to prevent, yeah? Il m'empêche de travailler, he prevents me from working. Essayer de, big common one. I'm trying to speak, j'essaie de parler, okay? Mériter, to deserve, yeah? Tu mérites de gagner, you deserve to win. S'occuper de, plus person. So these does can have the infinitive in some cases, the verb, or an object. I'm going to take care of you. Je vais m'occuper de toi. I've forgotten to order the pizza. J'ai oublié de commander, whatever. To speak about, we've talked about it earlier. Parler de. Okay? I'm going to speak about what happened, in front of the police officers. Je vais parler de ce qui s'est passé devant, whatever. He persuaded me to not come. Il m'a persuadé de ne pas venir. Notice, to not come, de, plus negative together. Il m'a persuadé de ne pas venir. He's promised me to... I promised to come. J'ai promis de venir, okay? Not j'ai promis venir, okay? So it's like you're using these does to then take yourself into the second action, the verb that comes next. I refuse to speak. Moi, je refuse de parler. Je refuse de lui parler. I regret doing it. Je regrette de l'avoir fait. To dream about, rêver de. Il rêve d'un jour. Now that would be rêver de plus an object. Se souvenir de, as opposed to se rappeler, which doesn't have the de in the same way. So je me souviens de, I remember. Venir de, another big, massive one. Yeah, if you remember 4 from this, use se souvenir de, essayer de, décider de, and what was the other one I just wanted that I've forgotten? Venir de. So I have just spoken. Je viens de parler. I've just spoken. I come from speaking. Okay. Lovely. And again, the example that will be written underneath is you can use these with a verb or you can use these with an object when it's required. So I'm dealing with that. Je m'occuperai de cela, or je m'occuperai de ça, or de lui, whatever. Ils viennent d'arriver. They've just arrived. Okay. Lovely. Some prepositions have de in them as well. In order to. Pour, can I remind you? No, we were talking earlier about going up into a verb here. So for example, if we found ourselves in the infinitive, so je suis content de parler, great, but what else will take us into an infinitive without a first verb going I'm going to do or you want to do? When we are talking about what we're doing with a reason, with a goal. So I'm going to Paris to see my mom. Je vais à Paris pour voir ma maman. Now, the more elegant, and we don't say that every single time in English, do we? We don't say I'm going to the toilet in order to pee, or I'm going to the kitchen in order to make a cup of coffee. We just say I'm going to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee. But in French, we always use the pour for these situations. You always use pour if it's the reason you're doing a verb. I'm going to do this in order to do this. And those of you that speak or are learning, Callum, Spanish, will be aware that we have this with para in Spanish and per in Italian, okay? But the more elegant version, the more literary version of these is afin de. One word, you'll see it underneath, afin de. So 2 words, but afin is 1 word. In order to. So in order to speak French, you can listen to you need to listen to my videos. Afin de parler le français, ou afin de parler français, tu as besoin d'écouter mes vidéos. Instead of, au lieu de. Beautiful expression. Instead of plus verb or instead of plus object. Instead of reading, try watching my videos. Au lieu de lire, essayez de regarder mes vidéos. Avant de. Massive, 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 massive big thing. Before doing some stuff. Avant de plus verb. Before eating, avant de manger. It sounded a bit Canadian then. Avant, French Canadian. Before reading, avant de lire. Before going, avant d'aller. Yeah, before the infinitive. Can I remind you again, what do we do when we've got the de up into the verb? We've got other things we can use. We can pop the pronouns there. So avant de le faire, avant de lui parler, avant de me donner, before giving me, we can do that. But if we're going de up to the infinitive, we can pop something before it if it's the pronoun. In order to pour, we don't need, obviously, we've replaced it with afin de. Okay, so I think that's basically. Oh no, so we've got verbs as well, where you do something to the person, but then the de connects you to the second verb. So this sounds really dumb, so it's kind of like, I advise to you, de, do the next thing. So for example, je lui dis, I tell to him, de parler, I tell him to speak. Je lui dis de parler, okay? So I'm going to read you this list out, and you can see them there. So commander. So I'm going to use lui so that you can hear that it's the to, because if I said il me commande, you're not going to hear it, okay? So he orders me to speak, il me commande de parler. He advises me to speak, il m'a conseillé de parler. He advised me to speak. He forbids me from speaking. Il m'a défendu de parler. Let's put them in the past. He asked me to speak, il m'a demandé de parler. Okay? He told me to speak, il m'a dit de parler. He forbids me. Forbids me from speaking. He forbade me from speaking. Il m'a interdit de parler. He ordered me to speak. Il m'a ordonné de parler. He allowed me to speak. Il m'a permis de parler. These verbs, again, the main ones you're going to come across here are dire and demander and permettre. That's a really common one. He allowed them to go. Il leur a permis de. Okay? So, but another way you can think about it is it's this idea of, so he allows us, il nous permet. He wants to speak, he's doing the wanting and then he's going into the speaking. When we're being brought into the situation, il nous permet, take us into our verbal idea, de. Okay, so it's really this kind of feeling that will happen. Lovely. I think that's basically the de stuff that I can think of. So let's summarise the main uses for de that you're going to be coming across regularly. De, basically meaning from or of. De, used in some, so du, de la, and des. De, used before infinitives, either after an adjective, so je suis content de parler, or after certain other verbs that will get you there. So essayer de parler or décider de parler, those are the big ones. With other verbs done to someone else that will then get them there with de. So obligé, enfin, il m'a permis de parler, il m'a commandé de parler. So it's someone else's second verb. With expressions of possessions, so la maison de Luc, Luke's house, les yeux de Luc, Luke's eyes, okay? Les problèmes de Luc, Luke's problems, okay? When talking about ways, de quelle manière, de quelle façon, de toute façon, anyway, okay? With, what else can we talk about in a roundup way with de, okay? When sensitizing ourselves to verbs that have de in that don't in English, in connecting us to the object. So j'ai besoin de toi, I need you. Je m'occupe de toi. Yeah? Je parle de toi, I talk about you. And to be aware with all of those that we would then have dans and en kicking in. So dont je t'ai parlé, that I spoke to you about. Dont j'ai besoin, that I need. Dont je m'occupe. Okay? I think basically that is a good massive speak English, Luke. I think that's a really good roundup. Okay? So the basic question that gets asked all the time is, Luke, can you give me a list of verbs which uses de? And what we really need to be looking at is why they're using de. Yeah, whether or not they would have de anyway, even if it was just me, j'ai décidé de parler, or if it's kind of like someone else has done something to someone else, de into their verb. Yeah, so je leur conseille, I'm doing the advising, de parler, they're doing the speaking. But the most common fault that happens all the time, honestly, is the lack of de after an adjective. Yeah, it was weird to speak to him. C'était bizarre de lui parler. That is the one I would really like to get down. So if you have any more de questions that I really, 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 really haven't answered, and I've tried to be as exhaustive as I possibly can, please, 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 please. Oh, one more I've just thought of that's actually really useful. But please do let me know. Is after beaucoup. Can you be really careful, and this goes across the board for all the de, can you be really careful to be sure of whether you are using the de or the du, des, de la business. So for example, lots of people, beaucoup de personnes, lots of friends, beaucoup d'amis. Beaucoup de amis linked. Beaucoup des amis would be lots of the friends. As we've previously talked about, du, de la, and des, which we use for some. This joining of words also happens with the just the general placing next to each other, de and le, de and la, de and les. So unless you're using le as a person, so je viens de le faire, le meaning him, or je viens de les voir, I've just seen them, unless les represents somebody. So for example, lots of people, beaucoup de personnes, not beaucoup des personnes, which everybody always wants to say. You can say that in French, but that means lots of the people that I've met, okay? So I hope this has been useful. Mammoth video. Do please watch it again and speak along with me next time. Copy the examples, have a read underneath, and I shall speak to you very soon. I look forward to the app video.